Good morning. My name is Ray Roberts, and I am the the managing partner of the Academic Partnership LLC. The Academic Partnership is an education consultant firm, American education consultant firm, based out of Northern Virginia, near Washington, D.C. We've been in existence since 2009. We have consulted for schools all around the world, including schools in Africa, schools in the Middle East, and also schools in America. Today I want to talk to you about American education, about education in general, and about what parents should expect out of schools and out of the curriculum. Now, this is extremely important because I believe that parents are the driving factor in how schools operate. This is especially the case here in Saudi Arabia. It's definitely the case here in Saudi Arabia. So what I have seen in my consulting experience over the last 5 years is that there is a heavy reliance on teachers getting and moving the content. And although this is extremely important, that we want at the end of each academic year and academic level, we want students to be able to master or have a understanding of certain content within the academic year. However, we do not jeopardize teaching and learning in that pursuit. So it is extremely important as parents that we understand that it's not about how much information is covered. It's more important that the information that is covered is being understood by the student. Now, this is extremely important in the new technological age that your children are going to be the leaders of and experience and be what Draker calls as knowledge workers in the age of access. And your students, and actually we're in the age of access right now, but your children will be the leaders, will be the knowledge workers, will be the innovators inside the age of access. So it's important that they understand how the age of access operates. And K through 12 schools give them that basic foundation of what is expected of them in this new age. This is what Common Core is about. Okay, so let me just briefly clarify something here. Common Core is not a curriculum. Let me say that again. Common Core is not a curriculum. It was never designed to be a curriculum. Okay, so if you hear anyone say that Common Core is a curriculum, they are wrong. Common Core is a set of standards. Okay, is a set of standards that is the expectation that the community at large, the academic community, the K-12 community, which includes the community, which include parents, which include students, which include educators, which include academic leadership, which includes government and government regulators or government agencies involved in education. It's a set of standards that everyone agrees on. Okay, and these are American standards for America's goals and visions, and that's an important concept to understand because we're not in America, we're in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, and some of you are not even Saudi Arabian Saudis. Some of you are from other parts of the world. So when we're looking at the Common Core standards, we're looking at really America's visions for its citizens, based on the new age of access, based on this idea of knowledge workers. So the Common Core standards is only a standard that we use within a curriculum. And curriculums are designed specifically by the school or the school district. In this case, in Saudi Arabia, there are no school districts, there are schools. Some schools have many schools because of the structure. Some schools may, some holding companies may hold and operate many schools, but in essence, curriculums should be designed by schools. One of the flaws that many international schools fall into is allowing the textbook to be the curriculum. Now, I agree that textbooks are validated. Many textbooks are validated, and they are created by experts who are able to scaffold and use teaching and learning methods within that textbook to make the transfer of knowledge easier or understanding easier. However, textbooks were never designed to be the sole curriculum or to be the sole educator of students. This is why we have teachers. So it's important that you realize that textbooks were not designed for schools to actually engage students page by page, or even unit by unit, or concept by concept. The schools themselves should decide, along with parents, along with academic leadership, along with the community at large and the government, to decide what is important for our people, for our needs, for our school, for our vision. This is very important to understand. So it is not necessarily necessary for a school or a teacher to go through every page in the book. It's not necessary. Okay. What is necessary is that the school creates a curriculum map. And the curriculum map is not necessarily a 15-week plan or the weekly plan. The curriculum map is something that should be issued to you at the beginning of, or it may or may not be issued to you, but something that is devised long before the academic year, where all the educators understand the direction in which the curriculum is going in. Understand not only the direction, but how we get to that endpoint. So we have to ask ourselves before we first write a curriculum, what are the expectations? What is the vision of the student? What type of student do XYZ school aspire to create? What type of student do you want? What type of, not necessarily what profession are they going to go in, or what college they want to get accepted to, but what type of person do you want? What type of person do you want your son or daughter to be when they become adults? How do we envision the world? How do we envision the community? So it's extremely important. I see there's a heavy emphasis on getting through content, getting through the textbook. Okay, the textbook is not the teacher. The teacher is the teacher, and the teacher should be a trained, highly motivated, highly qualified individual who is able to look at the textbook, extract the content that's in the textbook, and use it as a resource for their overall teaching and learning. Because the reality is the textbook is not able to personalize. The textbook is not able to conceptualize. So we have to be very important that we slow down and that we're not rushing through content, because rushing through content does not guarantee that students will learn to have any basic understanding. Furthermore, it does not allow the teacher to teach. It doesn't allow the teacher to use best practices in teaching. And these best practices include personalization, differentiated instruction, scaffolding, and there's hundreds of other best practices teachers can use as tools to make sure your student, your son and daughter, understand what they need to understand. Also, it's important that teachers use as a roadmap for themselves something called Bloom's Taxonomy. And what teachers are trying to do is, or should be trying to do, is actually move students up the pyramid of knowledge, getting them away from memorization and moving them up to understanding as it relates to synthesizing information, critical thinking, analyzing, creating. Okay, and there's a method to that, and that method cannot be done very quickly. So when we have pacing, what we're doing is we're really jeopardizing the level in which a student can understand. Now, why is this all important? Why did I take the time to make this video? It's because if we rush through information, if we rush through content, if we rush through the textbook, then students are not actually, we cannot prove what the students know. Tests are not a gauge of what students know. Okay, the test that a teacher may create or the test that a school may create are not true gauges of what students know. In fact, most of those tests would be deemed invalid tests. Tests should be created by test makers who actually have studied the art of and the craft of test taking and test making. So it's very important that the why questions are asked by the teacher. And again, there's a lot of setup that has to take place in order to get students to effectively answer that why question. It's those why questions that allow us to really understand what the student understands. And you cannot ask that why question effectively if you do not invest the time, the academic time throughout the academic day to set the student up to properly answer that question. This is also important because your child, your son and daughter are going to be competing against students all around the world in this global economy who are moving up, who have teachers who are moving them up Bloom's taxonomy, who have schools who are enrolled in schools where there is a curriculum map, where there's a vision for learning and education. So basically, by rushing through the content, you're robbing your child, you're robbing your son and daughter of an opportunity to be able to successfully and be competitive against their peers in this global world that we are now in, and that they most definitely will be engaged in. This idea of connectivity creates competition, and your child, this is how he or she is going to put food on the table for their children. Is being able to be connected, and once connected, being able to compete with their peers, and not their peers in the same neighborhood or the same city or the same country, but being able to compete with their peers globally. So I implore you, I beg you, I plead with you, please have the highest expectation of the school and the educators, and allow them to teach properly. And I'm not going to go over the teaching paradigms because, again, this is intended for parents. But there's a method in teaching, and it requires time, especially in the lower grades. So don't hassle about how much content is being absorbed. More concern yourself about whether your student is understanding, whether they have been given enough models, whether the teacher has had the opportunity to model the behavior enough for them to understand, whether the teacher has given them the opportunity, the school has given them the opportunity to differentiate their instruction for every student, because every student learns differently. This takes time. So let's move away from rushing through the curriculum and creating what I call information schools as information banks, where students just fill out a form and the teacher is the teller, and the teacher only records the information that the student was able to regurgitate. That's not learning. That's not teaching, nor is it learning. Direct instruction takes time. So there has to be an agreement, and there has to be a vision that the school has to figure out what is important for the students to learn, what is most important for the students to learn. Because even in even in schools that, even in American schools or even in Western schools, the teachers have to make these hard decisions. Schools have to make these hard decisions, the principals. What is most important? Because Common Core are standards. And it's even hard to get through all the information through the Common Core standards. And understand the Common Core is an American vision. It's for career readiness. If you go to the Common Core website, it's all about career readiness. Okay? For the American marketplace. So it's very important that, and if you want your student to be a part of American curriculum and you want to use Common Core, there's nothing wrong with that. But understand that they're standards, and that you are allowed, that under the context of Saudi Arabia, under the context of international school, as long as the schools are meeting the minimum requirements for accreditation purposes, so your students' transcripts can be transferable, you should be aware of what are the true standards that the students need to meet. Also, we also need to employ the idea of blended instruction to make sure the schools have some type of blended learning model in which they can differentiate their instruction via the internet, the online resources. And these are not online resources from the textbook. It's totally different. These are actually diagnostic tools and differentiated tools to help the students actually personalize more to meet their specific needs. Okay? And that can be done inside the classroom or outside the classroom. So really request that of your schools, that they have a differentiated instruction model that is technology based, normally online based. Okay. But the main mission here is to please really consider and think about not rushing through content, and really focus on understanding, making sure the student understands and owns the information for themselves. I know this may be a different way of thinking, but it's the 21st century way of thinking. Our students are going to be competing with students all over around the world. So everyone needs to be on the same boat as it relates to what is going to be expected of them 10 years from now, 15 years from now, 20 years from now. And this is why you guys are spending a lot of money at these schools to pay tuitions. Okay? I want to stop there because I don't want to make this video too long. If you want to talk to me and if you have personal questions or individual questions about what I have just talked about, or you want me to come to your teachers group or your parental group and have a broader discussion about these points, please contact me at raynorroberts@calltoenglish.com. That's RAYNORROBERTS @calltoenglish.com. Or you can call me at 054-003977. That's 054-003977. You can WhatsApp me on that number. You can also find me on Facebook at Raynor Roberts. That's RAYNOR Roberts, ROBERTS. Again, this is Ray Roberts, Managing Partner at Academic Partnership. You can visit us at www.calltoenglish.com. I'll be more than happy to speak with you concerning your educational needs for your students or your children. Thank you. Have a blessed day.